So for those who don't know me, my name is Seamus Coyle. I'm a community consultant for palliative care in St. Helens and Knowsley. And Steve, I'm going to address you because we're at the meeting today, the 22nd of April. And some of your colleagues thought it would be useful if I had a wee video on kind of broaching advanced care planning and how to have that discussion. So this is my way of going about it. It's not necessarily the best way of doing it, but it serves me well. And I think that you might find one or two things useful. So when I think about addressing end of life conversation with a palliative patient, usually I either meeting them for the first time, and sometimes when you meet someone for the very first time, you can push the boundaries of the conversations you'd normally have with someone. And I could say something like, no, listen, I hope you don't mind. I haven't met you before. This is a difficult question, but have you thought about it if life was short? What is it that you'd want? And if I've known somebody for a very long time, they'll usually bring it up. They might bring up something that, well, how long have I got? I'll say, is that something that you're thinking about as a way to open up a conversation around dying? And then go into it from there. But actually with COVID, it's actually the opportunity is already there, because the entire country is petrified of getting it and dying from it. So they're already thinking about it and they're already on their minds. So I would bring about it. The hardest bit is actually, well, how do I introduce this as a topic to talk about, because I need to talk about it. And the way I would do it is to say, well, I'd say to someone, I'd say, these are really frightening and scary times. Is that something that you've thought about? And allow them to answer that, because they'll say, yes, it is. And, you can push it and be a bit more direct and say, yeah, I'm afraid that, people are dying. And, how do we manage it? But another way of saying it is, I'll say to people, I'm wondering, if time was short, what is it that you would want? Is this something that you've thought about? And that's a great way then to go into, well, where would I like to be? Would I like to be at home for as long as possible? Definitely don't want to die in hospital. Some people don't mind dying in hospital. Some people definitely do not want to die at home. And that's okay. And in respect to a COVID conversation where the outcome is uncertain, you can say to someone, well, I can send you to hospital. I can. And at best, what they will give you, given that we're usually talking about a frail patient, or somebody with palliative diagnosis or shielded, so the best they can offer you is antibiotics and oxygen. Now, I could get you some oral antibiotics here at home, and we could try and organize oxygen at home. But then I take this, let's hope for the best, but let's plan for the worst. And you can go, well, but at worst, this would mean that you will not see your family. There is a possibility that you die. And if you die, you will die on your own. Now they're fully informed. Is that something you'd like to think about further? Is that something you would like to continue for me to talk about? And, I come about it and say, well, I'd say to people, I want what you want. So if I know what you want, then I can do my best to help you, and help others respect your wishes. So, and that's when you can be more direct. If you've thought about, if time is short, where would you like to be cared for? Where is it that you would like to die? Because I don't think anybody wants to die alone at home. or in a hospital. If you're talking with a patient who is frail and they not really getting that they're frail. Now, I sometimes have this with families of patients who've got cancer and they're very frail, but the family don't see it. So then what I'll do is I'll go back in time and I'll say, well, listen, how were you last summer? Because it's April now. How were you last summer? You know, how were you getting about? What were you doing? Did you have a good quality of life? And then you kind of look at major life and holidays throughout the year, and I says, well, how were you at Halloween? And then at Christmas time, were you not as well? And then at Easter, how were you compared to then? So then you're showing person, you're bringing them on a journey. You would say, well, last summer I was doing all of these things. Christmas time I wasn't doing as many, and at Easter I definitely wasn't doing as many. And then you can affirm that and say, well, that concerns me. You're not doing as much and you're not as well as you were. And I find that useful in conversation because then I can address, well, if you're more frail than what you were, that means every system in your body is more frail. So your heart is not as strong as it was last year. Your immune system is not as strong. Your overall strength and well-being is not as strong as it was. Mentally, you might feel the same, but physically, you're not. And that's then useful when I'm thinking of a UD and ACPR discussion. And I don't have a UD and ACPR discussion, or I wouldn't put it in that terms. I would say to someone, because a D and ACPR, CPR is a medical decision. So it's not a patient's decision. It's not. A patient and a family member, they cannot demand medical treatment. So, but you don't want to, be in your face with them about it. So I'll say to someone, I'll say, well, listen, if your heart stops naturally and you die peacefully in your sleep, then I'm going to respect your dignity and not allow anyone jump on your chest or give you an electric shock. And if I need to, with some people, I'll say, we're going to break your ribs. This is an extremely painful and undignified process. And somebody who's frail will have no benefit. And that's how I'll put it. And usually when you say to someone, listen, your opt-out clause is if your heart stops naturally and you die peacefully, a lot of people will go for that. Because if you reflect on it, you go, well, actually, that's one of my life wishes. I would love to die peacefully. And I think it's most people's wish. And so then when they say, well, that's what I want. And I says, well, that's what I want for you, or may not say that. And I'll say, well, there's a few things I need to put in place to organize that. And then I'll say, I'm going to fill in a form. It's called a UD and ACPR form. It means if your heart stops, we're not going to jump on your chest. If you've died peacefully, we're going to maintain your dignity. And that's how I approach a UD and ACPR for discussion. I don't. It's if your heart stops naturally and you die peacefully, that's what I want to allow. And let's allow a natural death. So kind of that's my whirlwind tour to how to have an advanced care planning discussion. It's kind of how I approach it. I'll always end it with, what else can I help you with? I don't say, can I help you with anything? That's a closed question. It's a yes, no answer. I'll say, what else can I help you with? Do you need some more time? Is this a conversation you need to think about, and I can come back to you? So always leave it open. And it's not always set in stone. So you go, leave them with that. But some people really they really know their mind and they know what they want. And it's really useful. And then sometimes you can feel quite insecure about having these conversations, and uncomfortable. And that's not unusual. I get uncomfortable, and I'm a palliative care doctor, and these are difficult conversations. And loads of my colleagues, all of my colleagues, feel the same way at times. Some people are easier, and some people are harder. My advice is, as long as you are genuine, be genuine. It's very hard to go wrong with this conversation. You know, with any conversation with someone, be genuine. People will respect where you're coming from. Good luck.